you can have the biggest innovation in the world if you are a phone manufacturer or an iPad replacement competitor. But if it doesn't connect with the emotions, the passions, and the actual lifestyle interests of individuals, I promise you, it will sell very badly. And it is also true in terms of workplace tools. You can invest in some of the smartest and most interesting and dynamic and most innovative tools which look great in terms of specification. But unless they capture the passion and the interests in terms of being usable, in terms of the delight and surprise and discovery that you get when you start to explore these tools, then they will be history. So I will be looking at this recurring theme as we go through, looking through the eyes not only of your customers, but also of our own teams, trying to understand how these emotions are changing in relation to technology. And I want to look at 5 key areas. They all begin with the word C: convergence, connections, clouds, crowds, and controls. Now, we all write about issues relating to convergence, food manufacturers becoming banks, and so on. Most usually, we write about convergence of technology, the mobile phone that becomes a camera, the camera that becomes a filing system, and so on. But I want to go way beyond that. I want to say this: I don't believe that innovation alone is enough to succeed. Let me give you some examples. We can imagine the way in which technology may go. We can consider all kinds of giant steps that people may take in terms of making things smaller, faster, better. But look at this, just coming back to this fridge. Here is what was considered to be an innovation. But put up your hands if you would like to own one of these. Put up your hands if you would like to surf the internet on the wall of a fridge as your son is opening to get the milk. I mean, this is innovation, but it's stupid innovation. Here's another example. I mustn't be too rude, but here's another one. A surfboard on which you can surf the internet at the same time. Now, I know you're laughing, but someone may have lost his job over this particular product because it was a real product in prototype, but has not gone very far. Why? Because it failed to engage passion. It may have been quite useful for some people on the beach. After all, if you go on a beach holiday, you discover people with their BlackBerries. Why not put the BlackBerry functionality in a surfboard? Great. It's logical. But there was zero market. Emotion is more important than we think. Here is another example. Now, we all have these in our homes, and we also, in theory, can buy these too. These cost €1.50. So my question is, who likes these and who has one of these? Can we see a show of hands now? Put your hands up if actually you quite like having more than one remote in your living room. Oh, come on, you don't need to feel embarrassed. Okay. Put up your hands if you own one of these and you believe in it passionately. The rest of you are much too embarrassed to say anything. What we understand is that technology tells us, convergence tells us, that this device, which should sell very well at €1.50, why not? But human emotion tells us that we are in love with pieces of plastic. So we have to get this right. We have to get into the psychology of the individual worker if we're going to get a long way in terms of sharing information. We have to enable them not only to do it, but to want to do it, and to want to engage with what other teams are doing. And if we go beyond convergence, then we're also looking in terms of convergence skill sets. We're talking about unusual lifestyles, unusual journeys of life. So we see an engineer become a banker, and after becoming a banker, works for a smartphone company. Why? Because actually the smartphone company is trying to become a bank and also is into engineering. We are seeing all kinds of curious combinations, and if we want to look at the future of employment, I promise you this: we will see not only individuals who are choosing because life is too short to have more than one career, but we will see employers who are passionate about employing people who have had 3 or 4 lives. Why? Because those kinds of blends of converged lifetime experiences are vital at senior management level to drive the future. And then, of course, as I say, we go into other areas such as banks becoming phones, phones becoming banks. Just one small thought on this one. Imagine a world where we started to tap maybe 10, 15, or 20%, or even 100% of just the UK card market. Think about it. $1 trillion per year of transactions. A credit card debt of $85 billion, average credit card interest rate 18%, bank rate 0.5. This is an interesting business. Imagine we could capture all of this using smart devices, which of course we can. The technology already exists. Imagine a world where telco costs are falling towards zero. The cost of bandwidth, the cost of the piece of plastic becomes less and less expensive. At what point will it be that we find we can give away the phone for free, the smartphone for free, just so long as you take out the cards from your pocket and cut them in two? We could imagine a world where maybe you keep one card for a maximum of $1,000, which you're allowed per month on one card, but all the rest of your transactions are using a smartphone. And if they are, then whoever it is that's behind that kind of technology consortium would have enough funds in the bank to be able to fund your video calls, your email, maybe your satellite information system, the entertainment that you want at home, unlimited bandwidth, and anything else that you would like to devour by way of the digital future in terms of your personal needs. So bye-bye mobile phone companies and welcome to banks. Can we imagine a world? Could you imagine a world? Could you imagine a world where telco costs have fallen low enough to be able to justify giving away smartphones, as I say, with all of that technology, funded simply from the transactions that you capture? Put your hands up if you could imagine such a world at some time in the future. You see, most debate about the future, I find with journalists, is not a debate actually about what is going to happen, which is usually much more obvious than some people think, as your writing shows. The debate is often about timing, and of course timing is everything in terms of business success. And that is why we have to share information, and that means connections at a level that we've never had before. And I'm not just talking about mobile technology. We heard about these extraordinary figures, the fact that maybe 40% of all searches on the internet will be done using smartphones in Europe, maybe in the next 18 months. We don't know, but this is the direction in which we're going. But what happens when you push the technology further? What happens when you start stitching chips into brains? Can it be done? Yes, of course. It's history. Some of you have written about it. We know that brain tissue grows quite well onto the surface of chips under the right circumstances. And we are seeing this technology in medicine. I am a physician in my first training. It interests me that we have the future possibility to control sophisticated technology by thinking alone. But the question is this: put your hands up if you would like a chip inside your head with which to communicate. Oh, one or two. And we'll be interested to read your writings about it in tomorrow's papers. It will certainly make a headline, because most of the readers of your papers, most of the people who watch your TV and radio broadcasts think it's a fascinating innovation, but they are emotionally worried about it. Once again, we see that the future is not about innovation alone. It's about understanding the passions, the emotions, the aspirations, hopes and dreams, the problems and challenges of business and so on, and then seeking to solve them, and then we have something. Now, here's an interesting reality check. You see, while you are listening to me at only 100 words a minute, the fact is that you can read on your iPad or some device like this at maybe 1,000 words per minute. But actually, if I was to read one of your newspapers, and I am fluent in your language, I will scan your paper at 10,000 words per minute. You all do this? That's your job. You pick up a copy of the Financial Times. How long does it take to know what you do not know? The answer is a few seconds. And anyone with any sophistication in senior management can scan maybe 5 or 10 large newspapers in less than 10 minutes and be sure that they have caught the most important things. That is the astonishing thing about the human eye, where we have 3,000 terabits of information, 3 terabits of information we process every second, compared to only 112K through your ears. So the eyes are the window of our brain. They are the fastest way to get data in, and paper has it. And put your hands up if you print out very large documents because it saves you so much time. I certainly do. I will happily do a speed test with any of you, and, we will discover something fascinating. I am a futurist, and yes, I use paper. Paper has a future, not eternally, but paper has been slow to leave our offices despite the digital revolution. In fact, if we look at the use of paper, paper-printed emails, in most multinationals, their paper costs are going up every single year. Fascinating. Because while they read on paper and scribble at the next meeting, the paper is then shredded and recycled. And then we have the problem of digital storage. Not the storage of the paper, but actually the filing of the genius which was printed out, which was read and shredded. But we need to be able to locate anywhere, anytime, on any device, at any moment, and to be shared with anyone with whom it is relevant within our business. So, new kinds of connections, and we are going to see many of these. And another connection in financial services is detection of fraud. Friends of mine, and you may have similar friends, are working on unusual ways to detect unusual patterns. The ability to spot that here is an employee who has phoned Singapore 4 times in the last 3 days, but never in the previous 2 years. What is more, this employee has never before phoned anyone long distance during office hours. At the same time, this particular employee has sent out of the organization to cloud emails like Gmail accounts over 5 times the normal number of large documents that person would send out in a week, and they went out yesterday. Enough. These 2 facts are enough to put sophisticated, semantic, self-learning systems into a red alert. And they start hunting for other things. They start hunting through diaries to look at who is meeting with whom, and when, and how, and unusual patterns there. And now we have a real security alert. And someone's going to get a little visit tomorrow morning to give an explanation for what it is that they're doing in Singapore. Does this matter? Yes, it does. It's another dimension of managing data, of knowing what we know. And of course, a lot of this is moving to the cloud. The cloud where our employees ran a long time ago. Put your hands up if you keep your own personal email in the cloud. Put your hands up if you have looked at cloud-based YouTube videos in the last week. Put your hands up if you have generated YouTube content within the last month or 2 of your own. Okay, it's already 5% of the people here. And so I could go on. So we are living in the cloud in our personal lives. Our children have been living in the cloud forever. But as corporations, we worry about the cloud, even though research shows that the cloud offers us some of the biggest IT potential savings that companies have seen in the last 5 years. And if you look at how corporate IT directors in Europe are thinking at the moment, around 85%, it depends on the survey. I've aggregated several surveys here, but it's around 85% are now beginning to allow wireless access. That was the start. 90% are allowing remote access from home. This is way up on 2 or 3 years ago. 75% are renting their software as a service in the cloud, with all the worries that their own intelligence and data may end up being known by the company who is providing that service. 44% are entrusting critical services into a third party. And then look at this, 25% of the largest corporations in Europe, and we would find the same in the US, in Japan, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, 25% of large corporations plan a partial migration into the cloud in the next 24 months. 1 in 10 will do it in the next 12 months. And we're looking at an enormous move. Clouds, convergence, connections. What about crowds? You see, with clouds come crowds. And crowds are one of the fastest growing ways to innovate that we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. This is harnessing the Wikipedia world to solve complex problems. And I'm seeing this in 3 areas, but there are many that you may be aware of yourself, and this is the TripAdvisor phenomenon. It's where the crowd rules. And by the way, people trust crowds. If you were to see these 2 comments here on TripAdvisor, if you typed in the name of a hotel, and the first was the most beautiful hotel in the world, this is the first listing on Google, and the second listing on Google is the most terrible place, rats, dirty, noisy, landed up nearly dead. On the right, you have the paid advertisement from the hotel chain. The big question is, which would you go to first? Now, put your hands up if you go first for the beautiful hotel. 1%. 2%, sorry, thank you. Put your hands up if you definitely go for the rats. 422%. Put your hands up if you know that the truth comes from the official marketing department and you go straight to the advertisement. 1. Now, before you laugh too hard, sorry, what is your name? You know, Elena. What is fascinating, Elena, is I went to a digital conference recently. Almost all conferences vote the same way that you do, except just one, because they knew the truth. What's the truth? Let's look again. Who actually wrote this particular wonderful hotel in the world? Well, it was the nephew of the hotel owner, of course. So, who wrote the one about the rats? The competitor. Now, you knew that. I mean, you knew that. You are intelligent, rational human beings like me. I knew that. You knew that. But every time you go for the rats. What is interesting is this. The future is not necessarily about logic. Again, we see it. It's about emotion. We see something like this. We're sure it's not a true story, but at least we want to read it. So we understand, therefore, that for most people in this room, we have greater trust in the opinion of a stranger, someone we have never met, who has no qualifications in the validation of hotel safety or standards. Nevertheless, that would be the preferred person whose opinion we would follow. This is the crowd. So not only is the crowd about collaboration, but there's also something about emotion, that human beings find crowds quite fascinating when we look at opinions that form. So we start to ask for answers to a complex problem. And very large multinationals are being forced down this route by the increasing cost of innovation. And we're seeing open innovation or crowdsourcing, in particular when we're looking at solving green challenges. We heard earlier about the commitment of RICO to environmental friendliness, and you find these kinds of solutions in the crowd. You put, I have 37,000 people following me on Twitter, so it's easy for me to solve a problem in the cloud. I just ask a question. And within seconds, I have the answer. It comes in, bang, 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 bang. What does it cost me? Nothing. I could be running a research department. It's fascinating how many people will give their intellectual capacity for nothing. And it's even more fascinating how many of them will give it when they are part of a community where perhaps they're paid a retainer, maybe 300 people, 500 of the world's best academics, all working for the same multinational company, available at the speed of light to contribute to a complex problem that must be solved. And it's not just issues relating to global warming and how we might use technology, but it's issues relating to genetics and healthcare, patterns of disease, tracking viral pandemics, and issues related to financial services. We can see it in all kinds of places. And as we use tools of open innovation, the cost of innovation has fallen dramatically, and the cost of protecting it has also risen dramatically. Because, of course, you can't have open innovation unless you have a legal framework to protect it. So it's lawyers that you pay, and the innovation comes for free. Exaggerating a little, but that's the trend. And finally, and of course related to all of this, It's all very well to say the world is converging, and that's true, that the world, it will be extraordinarily more connected than today in ways that we can hardly imagine, to focus on clouds and then on crowds. But all of these four big trends depend on one fundamental worry, which is growing exponentially at the moment for CIOs, and that is the issue of IT security, of processes, and of data. It's both. And making sure that the data remains ours, that it is accessible, and yet open enough to be able to be used wherever we are. And we are seeing a big rise in attacks. 61% of large European companies were detected significant attempts to hack their networks last year, of which 1 in 7 had a successful penetration. This is high, and it's risen quite dramatically. In fact, it's doubled in 2 years, so you can write your story about where we think it might be in the next 2 to 3 years. These are big issues, and of course, when you talk about crowds and open source innovation, and you talk about cloud computing, that increases these risks. And there is a natural and very real reason to be cautious here. Only 70%, nevertheless, are encrypting data at third-party sites, and so on. Oh, and most importantly, a quarter of these large companies suffered a denial-of-service attack on their websites in the last 12 months. So we have big issues here which are not resolved as we go forward into this unstoppable momentum. We know where we're going, but the problems and challenges are clear. And these are reasons why 50% of large corporations around the world restrict web access, even in this digital age. Some maybe not allowing people to visit more than 2 or 3 different websites in the case of most of their staff, because of this real worry, and this is increasing. So it's up from 33% 2 years ago. So, in conclusion, we have to keep these controls as invisible as possible, so they don't interfere with productivity, so that they don't discourage people, erode their morale and enthusiasm for connecting, for converging, for crowding, for communicating, and so on. And as we do that, then I believe we will find ourselves on a new trajectory to improve the lives not only of our customers, but also of our own staff, and the speed of innovation, an increase of profitability with a reduction in core costs. But of course, it all comes down to the way in which we manage this knowledge, and knowing what we know and knowing what to do with it. Thank you very much.
Patrick, thank you very much. That was very inspiring. I do, however, before you, I know you have to run away and you won't join us for lunch, unfortunately. I do have just one quick question for you, especially with Enrico. We're great believers now in teamwork. And listening to your speech, you're kind of indicating that innovation will sit in the cloud these days, and you can nearly go out just to the cloud and innovate. Where, if you look at Rico's our core business still is manufacturing. That's in our DNA. How much what's the balance between keep that within your business and how much that you put out in the cloud? How do you view this?
I think that the traditional disciplines of engineering, of mechanical processes, of let's say crafting a new type of silicon chip and things like that, will remain fundamentally within the infrastructure of existing corporations like Rico. Where we are seeing the rapid growth is in terms of generating the wild thought. It's the breakthrough, using the example of chips, it's a new method of overcoming the heating problems inside a chip. An ingenious piece of mathematics which allows a chip to wind down its power settings in at twice the speed than it would normally. It's a combination of ideas across many disciplines that probably don't exist to that degree inside the traditional innovation structure. So it's not to replace the innovation teams. I've exaggerated deliberately to make the point, but to highlight a trend. And it's interesting that you see this most of all not in big manufacturing companies actually. You see it of course in software development, you see it in health, you see it in financial services, where actually, strangely enough, it's the idea often more than the product itself which has the greatest power to transform the bottom line.
Okay. Thank you very much, and there's no doubt about it, if you see the whole transition that we are going through from into product to services, that collaboration is such a key word. So, once again, thank you very much, Patrick. Very, very inspiring. Thank you for joining us, and
Pleasure to be here.
have a good day to you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.